The Crescent Hotel in Eureka Springs has a chilling history. After Norman G. Baker's dubious treatments, the building became notorious for the suffering it caused. The fact that he painted parts of the hotel purple adds a strange, eerie flair to the story, reflecting his bizarre personality. Today, guests report encounters with the hotel's ghostly residents, like the bearded man in Victorian attire and the playful spirit of a young girl. The blend of its haunted reputation and historical significance makes it a fascinating destination for both ghost hunters and history buffs alike. As the years went by, the Crescent Hotel transformed from a place of healing into a site of lingering despair. The spirits of those who sought relief from their ailments seemed to hang in the air, their stories etched into the very walls of the building. Guests began to report strange occurrences: cold spots in rooms, flickering lights, and the feeling of being watched. Some claimed to hear whispers echoing through the hallways, as if the past were desperately trying to communicate. One particularly eerie night, a couple staying in room 218 woke to the sound of soft giggles. At first, they dismissed it as a child playing nearby, but as the laughter continued, they began to realize there were no children in the hotel. Curiosity piqued. They followed the sounds into the hallway, where they felt an inexplicable chill. The air thickened with an otherworldly presence, and they turned to see a faint figure of a young girl, her dress flowing as if caught in an unseen breeze. Meanwhile, the bearded man in Victorian clothing, often seen wandering the upper floors, became an enigma for guests and staff alike. His appearance was always fleeting. One moment he would be leaning against a wall, and the next, he'd vanish into thin air. Some believe he was a former patient, eternally searching for solace in a place that had caused him so much pain. Others whisper that he might be connected to Baker himself, still tied to the hotel's dark legacy. As stories spread, more thrill-seekers arrived, drawn by the tales of hauntings. Paranormal investigations became a regular occurrence, with ghost hunters setting up equipment in the hopes of capturing evidence of the supernatural. They would often report strange anomalies on their devices, and sometimes even communicate with the spirits through EVP sessions. Yet, amid all the excitement, the hotel retained an aura of melancholy. The ghosts of the past seemed to yearn for recognition, their stories begging to be told. Visitors often left with a heavy heart, realizing the hotel was more than just a spooky destination. It was a reminder of the lives once lived, the hopes dashed, and the enduring shadows of regret that lingered long after Baker's departure. As more guests checked in, the legends of the Crescent Hotel continued to grow, each new encounter adding another layer to the tapestry of its haunted history. One rainy evening, a group of friends decided to spend the night at the Crescent Hotel, eager to experience its haunted reputation firsthand. They settled into a spacious room with a view of the misty Ozark Mountains, the sound of raindrops tapping against the window creating a perfect backdrop for ghost stories. As night fell, they lit candles and shared tales of the hotel's past, feeling both excited and anxious. After a few hours, they decided to explore the hotel's darkened hallways. Armed with flashlights, they ventured down the creaky wooden floors, the beams of light flickering against the ornate wallpaper that seemed to whisper secrets of its own. They reached the upper floors, where the air grew colder, and an unsettling stillness enveloped them. As they approached room 218, one of the friends felt an inexplicable pull, as if something was beckoning them closer. They hesitated at the door, exchanging nervous glances before finally deciding to knock. The door creaked open on its own, revealing an empty room, the bed perfectly made as if untouched for years. A soft giggle echoed from the corner, sending shivers down their spines. Compelled by curiosity, they entered and noticed an old-fashioned doll sitting on the dresser, its glassy eyes staring back at them. One of the friends, a skeptic, reached out to touch it, only to feel a sudden rush of cold air. The lights flickered ominously, and they could have sworn they heard the faint sound of a child's laughter, closer now, as if the little girl from the legends was inviting them to play. Feeling both frightened and exhilarated, they gathered their courage and began to ask questions, hoping to make contact. Suddenly, one of their flashlights dimmed, and they felt a weight settle in the room, as if someone or something was watching. They each took a deep breath, ready to face whatever might come next. Meanwhile, back in the main lobby, the hotel staff watched with a mix of amusement and concern. They had seen many guests come and go, but something about this group felt different. The hotel's atmosphere seemed to shift as the friends delved deeper into the mystery, drawing the attention of the spirits that still roamed the halls. The bearded man, known to appear when the energy in the hotel intensified, began to manifest in the shadows. Guests often described him as both comforting and unsettling, a guardian of sorts, but with a haunting presence that hinted at sorrow. Tonight, he seemed more active than usual, as if he could sense the disturbance caused by the newcomers. As the friends continued their exploration, the temperature dropped further, and an electric charge filled the air. They felt a presence guiding them toward the hotel's old basement, a place long rumored to be a focal point for paranormal activity. Each step they took felt heavier, as if the weight of the hotel's tragic history was bearing down upon them. Curiosity ignited, they descended the narrow staircase, the flickering light from their flashlights casting eerie shadows on the damp stone walls. Whispers danced in the air, and the faint sound of sobbing echoed from somewhere deep within the darkness. Heart pounding, they pressed on, determined to uncover the secrets hidden beneath the hotel. But as they reached the bottom, the air thickened, and the whispers grew louder. It was as if the spirits were trying to communicate, warning them of something that lay ahead. Just as they were about to turn the corner, a chilling gust swept through the hallway, extinguishing their candles and plunging them into darkness. As they fumbled for their flashlights, a soft voice broke through the silence, clear and haunting. "Help me, don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story." Frozen in place, the friends exchanged wide-eyed glances, their hearts racing. The voice echoed again, a plaintive whisper that seemed to wrap around them like a shroud. "Help me." It resonated from the darkness ahead, compelling yet terrifying. Gathering their courage, they switched on their flashlights, the beams cutting through the pitch black. The air felt charged, almost electric, as they stepped cautiously toward the source of the voice. The whispers grew softer, more distinct, as if the unseen presence was guiding them deeper into the abyss of the basement. They turned a corner and found themselves in a dimly lit chamber filled with old medical equipment, remnants of Baker's dubious operations. Rusty gurneys and dusty surgical tools lay scattered about, remnants of a time long gone. In the corner, a large mirror reflected their anxious expressions back at them, and for a brief moment, they thought they saw a figure standing behind them. Spinning around, they found only empty air. The sense of being watched was palpable, and the temperature dropped further, sending chills up their spines. "This is where they say the spirits of the patients linger," one friend whispered, her voice shaking slightly. "Let's keep going," the skeptic urged, pushing forward despite the unease settling in their stomachs. As they ventured deeper, they stumbled upon an old, heavy door slightly ajar, creaking ominously as they approached. A faint light flickered within, casting eerie shadows that danced along the walls. "Should we?" one of them asked, glancing back nervously. But curiosity won over caution, and they pushed the door open, revealing a small room lined with photographs of past patients. The walls were peeling, and the air felt heavy with sorrow. In the center of the room stood an old-fashioned rocking chair that seemed to sway slightly, even though there was no breeze. The atmosphere thickened as they stepped inside, a sense of dread mingling with the hope of uncovering the truth behind the ghostly pleas. Suddenly, one friend gasped, pointing at a photograph on the wall. "Look, it's the little girl." In the faded black and white image, a young girl with bright eyes and a sweet smile stood beside a man with a bushy beard. The resemblance to the Victorian figure they had heard about was uncanny. The energy in the room shifted again, the whispers becoming frantic, pleading. "Help me. Help us," they seemed to say, echoing through the walls like a haunting melody. The friends felt compelled to do something, anything, to ease the suffering of the spirits trapped within. "Maybe they want us to find out what happened to them," the skeptic suggested, her voice steadier now. "We need to learn their stories." Fueled by a newfound determination, They began searching the room for clues, old medical records, diaries, anything that might reveal the fates of the souls trapped in this place. As they rummaged through the papers, the atmosphere became charged with an urgency that sent shivers down their spines. Suddenly, one of the friends found an old journal hidden beneath the floorboards, its pages yellowed with age. The handwriting was shaky but legible, filled with desperate accounts of pain, failed treatments, and lost hopes. Each entry seemed to speak directly to their hearts, drawing them further into the tragic narratives of the patients who had once roamed these halls. Just then, the lights flickered violently, and the air became thick with an oppressive energy. A sudden crash echoed from the shadows, startling them. They spun around, their flashlights illuminating a figure standing in the doorway, an apparition, the bearded man from the legends, watching them intently. "Help them," he whispered, his voice a deep rumble that resonated within their bones. The gravity of his plea hung in the air, leaving them breathless as they realized the true weight of their mission: to uncover the truth and give the forgotten spirits a voice. But as the tension mounted, the air grew heavier, and they felt an urgent pull from the depths of the hotel's dark history, leading them to confront the chilling reality of what had transpired long ago. The bearded man stepped closer, his form shimmering as though he were caught between worlds. The friends felt an odd mixture of fear and empathy, compelled to listen. "They suffer in silence," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You must uncover their stories. Only then will they find peace." The urgency of his words ignited a fire within them. They exchanged determined glances, realizing that they had stumbled upon a mission far more significant than they had anticipated. Each journal entry they had read spoke of lost dreams and shattered hopes, and now they were determined to honor those voices that had been silenced for so long. "Where do we start?" one friend asked, her voice steadier now, filled with purpose. The bearded man gestured toward the far wall of the room, where an old, dusty cabinet stood. It was slightly ajar, as if waiting for them to uncover its secrets. With a nod of encouragement, they approached, the air growing electric with anticipation. As they opened the cabinet, they found stacks of old medical charts and letters. The documents were brittle with age, but they carefully sifted through them, piecing together the heartbreaking stories of the patients who had come to the Crescent Hotel in search of a cure. Each name they uncovered felt like a whispered plea, a call for recognition. Hours passed as they delved deeper into the past. The voices in the room seemed to grow stronger, guiding them with an invisible hand. They learned of patients who had arrived with hope, only to face betrayal and neglect. Each story was a thread in a tapestry of tragedy, revealing Baker's dark practices and the suffering he inflicted upon those who trusted him. Just as they began to feel a sense of connection with the lost souls, the atmosphere shifted again. The temperature dropped sharply, and an overwhelming sense of sadness filled the room. It felt as though the spirits were growing restless, urging them to hurry. "Look," one of them exclaimed, pointing to a particular chart that stood out among the rest. It detailed the case of a little girl named Emily, whose story mirrored the whispers they had heard. Emily had arrived at the hotel with her mother, desperate for a cure. The notes described her condition and the failed treatments, but what struck them was the last entry: "Hope for a cure fades. Spirits wane." The friends felt a pang of sorrow wash over them, recognizing the weight of Emily's unfinished story. They were not just ghosts. They were people with dreams, families, and lives cut short. "We have to do something for her," one of them said, determination clear in her voice. As they brainstormed ways to honor Emily and the other spirits, the lights flickered again, and the bearded man stepped forward, his expression grave. "You must confront the source of their pain. Baker's legacy must be unveiled. Only then can they be freed." A sense of urgency rushed over them. They realized they had to expose Baker's misdeeds, to bring light to the darkness that had engulfed the hotel for so long. The stories they had uncovered were not just personal tragedies. They were part of a larger narrative that needed to be told. With newfound resolve, they left the room, determined to gather more information about Baker and his twisted practices. As they ascended the staircase, the atmosphere shifted yet again. The whispers grew louder, and the feeling of being watched intensified, as if the spirits were rallying behind them. Back in the lobby, they found a dusty old book lying on a table, its pages filled with newspaper clippings about Baker's hospital and the numerous patients who had come to seek help. The articles detailed the growing public outcry as more and more families lost loved ones, their hopes dashed by false promises. "This is it," one of them exclaimed, realizing they had stumbled upon a treasure trove of information. As they pored over the clippings, they discovered stories of other patients, each one a testament to Baker's deceit and the pain he had caused. But just as they were piecing everything together, a sudden chill swept through the lobby. The lights flickered violently, and the atmosphere thickened. They turned to find the bearded man standing near the entrance, his face twisted in anguish. "He knows you are here," he warned, urgency lacing his voice. Panic gripped the friends as they realized the danger they had unwittingly stirred. Baker's presence lingered like a dark cloud, and they felt a sense of foreboding wash over them. The hotel had not forgotten its past, and neither had the spirits who had suffered within its walls. "We need to be careful," one friend urged. "If Baker finds out what we're doing." But before they could finish, the lights went out completely, plunging them into darkness. The air crackled with tension, and they could hear the soft echo of footsteps approaching. They braced themselves for whatever might come next, the weight of their mission heavy on their hearts. In that moment, they understood. They were not just guests in a haunted hotel. They were the bearers of stories that needed to be told, and they would have to confront the darkness to bring the light. As the darkness enveloped them, the echo of footsteps grew louder, filling the room with a sense of impending doom. The friends huddled together, their flashlights flickering uncertainly as they strained to see through the inky blackness. Suddenly, a cold breeze swept through the lobby, and the bearded man appeared again, his form glowing faintly. "You must stand together," he urged, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Baker thrives on fear. You cannot let him intimidate you." Taking a deep breath, the friends nodded, channeling their fear into determination. They needed to finish what they had started. As the footsteps drew closer, they turned their flashlights toward the source of the sound, illuminating a shadowy figure at the far end of the lobby. "Who dares to disturb my domain?" the figure bellowed, his voice echoing with authority and menace. It was Norman G. Baker, looking as imposing as the tales had described, dressed in a tailored suit, his eyes glinting with malice. "Your time is over, Baker," one of the friends shouted, stepping forward despite the terror gripping her. "We know what you did, and we're here to tell the truth." Baker's expression twisted with rage, and the temperature in the room plummeted further. "You think you can expose me? These walls are my fortress." His voice crackled with energy, causing the lights to flicker ominously. The friends stood firm, bolstered by the presence of the bearded man and the spirits who lingered around them. "You may have caused suffering, but we will not let you continue to haunt this place. We will share their stories," another friend declared, her voice unwavering. With a sudden rush of adrenaline, they turned back to the old book on the table. They began reciting the names of the patients they had uncovered, speaking the stories of lost hopes and shattered dreams. The whispers of the spirits grew louder, filling the air with an overwhelming energy. As they named each victim, the atmosphere shifted. The lights flickered violently, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. Baker's face contorted with anger, but the friends pressed on, determined to reclaim the narrative. "Emily, Sarah, Thomas, you will be remembered," they shouted in unison. The bearded man stepped closer, his spirit glowing brighter as he joined their chorus. "You cannot silence us any longer," he boomed, and the energy in the room surged. The shadows around Baker writhed and twisted, as if the spirits were fighting back against the dark legacy he represented. With each name spoken, the room brightened, the oppressive atmosphere lifting slightly as the spirits gained strength. Baker's fury turned to desperation as he realized he was losing control. "No, you cannot do this," he roared, his form beginning to flicker like a faulty light bulb. "Your reign of terror ends here," the friends declared, their voices rising in a triumphant crescendo. We reclaim the stories of those you wronged. With one final push, they shouted the names of the patients in unison, their voices mingling into a powerful wave of sound. The walls shook, and a blinding light enveloped the room, illuminating every corner and driving back the darkness. Baker's figure distorted, twisting as if being pulled away by an unseen force. "This isn't over," he cried, his voice fading into a distant echo as he was swallowed by the light. The oppressive energy in the room dissipated, replaced by a warm, comforting presence. As the light faded, the friends found themselves standing in a calm, bright lobby. The weight of fear lifted. The bearded man stood before them, his expression now one of gratitude and peace. "Thank you," he said softly. "You've given them a voice. They can finally rest." The atmosphere felt lighter, the air filled with a sense of relief. The friends exchanged joyful smiles, knowing they had fulfilled their mission. They could almost hear the faint giggles of the little girl, the echoes of lost souls finally at peace. In the days that followed, they returned to the Crescent Hotel, not as fearful guests but as advocates for the spirits who had suffered. They shared their findings, telling the stories of the patients and shining a light on Baker's dark legacy. The hotel, once shrouded in sadness and hauntings, began to transform into a space of healing and remembrance. As word spread about their experiences, more visitors came to learn about the hotel's history, not just the ghost stories, but the real lives behind them. The spirits were honored, and their stories became part of the hotel's legacy, allowing their memories to live on. And though the Crescent Hotel still held its share of mysteries, the air was lighter now, filled with whispers of gratitude rather than sorrow. The friends had woven the past into the present, ensuring that the voices of those who had come before would never be forgotten. In the end, they had not only confronted darkness, but had also illuminated the path to healing, turning a haunted place into one of hope and remembrance. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.